প্রতিদিন সংসদ বাংলাদেশ টেলিভিশনের সম্প্রচার দেখুন সিনে বাংলায়। নিয়োগ সময় প্রতিদিন সকাল ৬টা এবং বিকেল ৫টায়।
প্রিয় দর্শক, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। আমি শামীমা হোসেন স্নিগ্ধা। আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি আমাদের নিয়মিত আয়োজন ইউএস ইমিগ্রেশন সংক্রান্ত বিষয়ক অনুষ্ঠান ইউএস ইমিগ্রেশন উইথ ব্রেটস কোভেন। দর্শক, আমাদের সাথে নিয়মিত উপস্থিত আছেন অ্যাটর্নি ক্যারি এবং অ্যাটর্নি আইলিন। হ্যালো ক্যারি, হাউ আর ইউ?
Great, Shamima. Thanks for having us.
Welcome to the show. And hello Eileen, how are you? Welcome to the show to you too.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. দর্শক, আপনারা আমাদেরকে যে কোনো বিষয়ে সরাসরি প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন ইমিগ্রেশন সংক্রান্ত এই নাম্বারে 718-389-9600। আপনারা আমাদেরকে বাংলায় এবং ইংরেজিতে যে কোনো ভাষায় কোয়েশ্চেন করতে পারেন। আমি আপনাদেরকে অনুবাদ করে জানাবো আপনাদের কোয়েশ্চেনটি। Okay, Carrie, comes to you. We just know that immigration reform, it's happening. So is there any news for our community?
Sure. Everybody is speaking about immigration reform these days, and everybody wants it to happen, and we need it to happen. Back in 2012, the Senate passed a great comprehensive immigration bill that would have afforded people that have been here in many years without certain criminal histories right to live and work here, to travel, and eventually get a green card, a long path. But it went nowhere in the Congress. It's dead in the Congress. So Obama has been talking about using his executive powers. He's basically the chief policeman, right? And he can decide who he wants to deport and not to deport. So he used his executive powers also 2 years ago to do deferred action for childhood arrivals, what everybody calls DACA. And the rumor is that he will do something like that for a greater group of people, perhaps people who have been here since January of 2010 or January of 2012. And he will do that sometime between the elections that we're going to have in a couple of weeks and the end of the year. There also may be something else called parole in place, which is a little complicated, but that would allow people who entered the U.S. illegally to be able to do a green card in the U.S. based upon marriage or an employee petition without having to leave. So those two things would really help the immigrant community, especially the Bangladeshi community. But we don't have that yet. We only have his word that it's coming sometime between November and the end of the year.
So it's nothing in written at this time?
No,
law has been implemented.
Just a promise from the president.
Okay, what is the like reform you think for our community that's family-based, like for the families? We know there are families that has been deported previously, but their children are here as a citizen. So these peoples, this is like in a very complicated matter for the
Yeah,
families.
it's really sad when you see families separated and deported. The good news is, although the Obama administration is deporting record numbers of people, over 400,000 this year, that's a record. No other president has done that. He has concentrated on criminals, sexual predators, gang members, violent felons, drug traffickers, fraudsters.
Right.
And he's also recently concentrated, sadly, on the children who have just got here, childhood arrivals.
Exactly.
But everybody else is not a target right now. So if you even have a deportation order that's 10 years old and you're still living here, the likelihood that you're going to be deported under this administration is almost zero.
Okay.
So that's really good news. That's kind of recognized that that our enforcement resources are limited. Let's focus on a certain group of people. So I would say for the average person who's overstayed their visa, has a deportation order, no criminal history, and they're here, they really shouldn't be living in fear the way they were 10 years ago under the Bush administration, where anybody could be picked up and deported. That's really not happening right now.
So basically, it's a good news for them.
That's very good news, yes.
Okay, so that's kind of relief actually for Bangladeshi community. As far as I know, there are many people who are suffering from it. As we see, many people has been got deportation order,
Right.
and have kids.
What has come up a lot, and I think because the government has become a little bit more sophisticated in the way they check things, and now when you travel, you have to do your fingerprints. What has come up an awful lot, and it has affected a lot of my clients from Southeast Asia, is, and this is a typical scenario, somebody came to the U.S. in one name, they filed for asylum in that name, they didn't get it, then in their real name, they married somebody, got their green card, and now it's 20 years later and they're thinking about citizenship, and they're worried, and rightfully so, that this older case is going to come back up. Or they traveled, and when they traveled every year for many years, but all of a sudden this year when they traveled, they got stopped at the airport and they were asked about that original case. So this is an issue that's coming up a lot, and there are solutions for people in this circumstance. There are many waivers, different waivers available, especially if they're family people and they're married and the spouse is a resident or a citizen, they have children born in the U.S. So. It's something that a lot of my Southeast Asian clients, my Bangladeshi clients worry about, but there are solutions for that. It's not something to necessarily stay in the shadows forever. There are ways that we can resolve that.
Let me tell my audience a little bit about what he said. দর্শক, আপনাদের যদি এই ধরনের কোনো কেস থাকে যারা অলরেডি ডিপোর্টেশন অর্ডার পেয়েছেন অথবা এরকম কোনো সিচুয়েশনে ভুগছেন, তাহলে আপনারা অ্যাটর্নি ক্যারি অথবা অ্যাটর্নি আলিনের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন। তাদের নাম্বার স্ক্রিনে আছে। আপনারা যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশনের ব্যাপারেও তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন, which is very good, and already Kerry বলেছে যে এই অ্যাডমিনিস্ট্রেশনে ফিয়ার, আমাদের যে ভয়টা যে এখান থেকে ডিপোর্ট হয়ে যাবে, অলদো আপনাদের বাচ্চারা যারা এখানে আছে তাদের সিটিজেনশিপ আছে, তো এই ভয়টা জিরো। সো তারপরেও আপনারা ফার্দার যে কোনো ইনকোয়ারি থাকলে আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন। আমি I'll go to Eileen. I just want to know more about your farm, that what kind of cases you basically do for our community, and how many years you have been. I know Carrie is talking about more about cases, but let me hear about your farms, the Bretz Coven.
Well, Bretz Coven has been in business for more than 15 years, and before that we were in practice for an additional 5 years. So we've been doing this for 20 plus years at this point.
Wow, that's great.
And we're a full service immigration law firm. We handle anything and everything immigration related. So we deal with the Department of State and USCIS. We deal with EOIR, we deal with the Department of Labor, and we also deal with the Board of Immigration Appeals and federal court. So if you have an issue that's immigration related, it's most probably that we can help you. So we handle everything from administrative cases to deportation cases to fraud cases, people who've been deported and we bring them back depending on their eligibility. and we help their family as well. So if there's anything we could do, our first course of action is to have a consultation, to meet with us. You meet with a lawyer, not with a paralegal. You meet with a lawyer. We go over your case, and we assess whether we can help you or not.
That's good.
I'm going to jump in. Let me just also add, and I don't mean to brag, but since you brought it up, both Eileen and I and our retired partner, Jules Coven, and the firm have a rating called AV. And this AV rating is a peer rating. It comes from other lawyers, judges, and law professors.
Okay.
That rating is the highest rating that a lawyer can have.
Wow, that's
It's a very small percentage. I don't know if it's 1% or 5% of the lawyers in the U.S., but it is an honor. I'm celebrating my 15th year with it. Eileen has several years with it, but the firm also has that rating. And what that really means is that other lawyers, our peers, and judges and law professors believe that we are at the top of our game. And I'm very proud of that. And technically, the A stands for the highest rating you can get for knowledge, and V stands for the highest rating in ethics. So it's both of those, and both Eileen and I are very proud of having that.
Really, we're proud of you guys too. Thank you.
But she wouldn't say it. I have to say it. She's too humble.
This is really great to know, because most of the farms, we really don't know how they're doing and what's their peer rating is. So it is great to know, and it is a great honor to be with you guys and having information for our community. So let me tell my audience more about you. অডিয়েন্স দর্শক, আপনারা শুনলেন তাদের মুখেই তাদের ফার্মটি 25 বছরের বেশি তারা এই প্র্যাকটিস করছে, এই চর্চা করছে ইমিগ্রেশন লয়ের উপরে। আপনাদেরকে যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশনের সুবিধা দেওয়ার জন্য তারা তাদের যে ধরনেরই কেস হোক না কেন আপনাদের, তারা সেই ধরনের কেস হ্যান্ডেল করার ক্ষমতা তাদের আছে, যা তাদের এক্সপেরিয়েন্স থেকে এসছে, which is really a good thing. খুবই ভালো একটা জিনিস। আপনারা যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশন কেস, যে কোনো যত কমপ্লিকেটেড হোক না কেন, আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন। ফার্স্ট আপনারা তাদেরকে ফোন করে একটা অ্যাপয়েন্টমেন্ট নেবেন কনসালটেশনের জন্য, অ্যান্ড আপনারা সরাসরি অ্যাটর্নির সাথে কথা বলতে পারবেন, প্যারালিগাল নয়। ওকে, সো
I'll add one other thing. What we're most well known for is complicated immigration cases. So we not only get that from clients coming in on their own, but we get referrals from other immigration attorneys who can't handle certain factors. Yeah, if there's a lot of fraud issues, if there's a lot of prior deportation, multiple names, etc. So we are the go-to firm for other lawyers or for criminal lawyers, other immigration lawyers, criminal lawyers, etc., who want to help their clients out.
Wow. দর্শক, আলিন যেটা বললেন যে তারা শুধুমাত্র তাদের ক্লায়েন্টদেরকেই তারা হ্যান্ডেল করেন না, তারা এবং অন্যান্য লয়ারদের কাছ থেকেও তারা রেফারেলটা পান। যে কোনো কমপ্লিকেটেড ম্যাটার যেটা অন্য লয়ার হ্যান্ডেল করতে পারে না, সেটা তারা হ্যান্ডেল করে থাকেন। সো আপনাদের যদি এরকম কোনো কমপ্লিকেটেড ম্যাটার থাকে, সো দে উইল বি দ্য বেস্ট ওয়ান। তারা সবচেয়ে ভালো হবে আপনাদেরকে সাজেশন দেওয়ার জন্য এবং আপনাদের কেসটাকে হ্যান্ডেল করার জন্য। সো আপনারা যদি চান তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করার জন্য, সো আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন। তাদের নাম্বারটি আছে আমাদের স্ক্রিনে শো করছে। সো Carrie, there will be a question from me. It's what is the domestic violence? There are criminal victims of. There are many people who are here. So, is there any cases that they can?
So if you're if you're in the United States and you've been a victim of domestic violence, there are multiple options available to you. So we would actually look at them on a case-by-case basis, but let me explain. You may be eligible for adjustment of status based upon the victim, based upon the abuse you suffered from a spouse. You may be able to just go straight to the Immigration Service and apply for battered spouse petition, and then ultimately a green card. In other cases, you may not be eligible for that, but you may be eligible for what's called a U visa. A U visa, one of our favorite visas in the office, especially Mr. Bretz's. It's a catch-all for those that are victims of crimes. So if you're a victim of a crime, you've suffered a harm, and you've cooperated with the police, you may be eligible for a U visa. There are limitations on which crimes qualify for a U visa, so you need to come and see and assess that. But if you have been a victim of a crime, you report it to the police, and then you've cooperated in whether they arrest anybody or not, but you've been available to cooperate, most likely you can get a U visa signed off by the law enforcement agency, and you may get deferred action with the right to work and ultimately the right to apply for a green card.
So basically, they have a good chance if they're victims of anything.
If they're a victim of a violent crime, there is a list, a special enumerated list of crimes that you must be a victim of. Right. But if you are a victim, you get to apply for this even if you already have a deportation order. Even if you were already deported, you may even apply at the consulate. Maybe you'll be able to come back. Even if you committed fraud and you're ineligible for a green card any other way, you may still be eligible through a U visa. Okay. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, sure, because, you know, I love the U visa. It's my favorite. And Eileen is correct. It's a victim of a violent crime. One reason to do the U visa as opposed to doing the battered spouse petition, which comes from the Violence Against Women's Act, is if the abuser is not your legal husband, it's a boyfriend, a live-in boyfriend, but not legally married, you can't do the VAWA case. You can't do the battered spouse case. You have to do the U visa. It requires that you've reported to the police. They believe you're credible. They have to sign a certification. And it requires that you were harmed in some way. And there's no statute of limitations. I'm doing U visas for people who have really bad immigration situations where they were victims in the early 90s. And we're doing it. And what else is good about the U visa? Eileen's correct. It kind of trumps everything. You can get the U visa no matter what problems you have unless you're a terrorist. So if you have a drug trafficking case and you were deported from the U.S. and you came back illegally and you caught another drug case, but you're a victim of a violent crime, you can get this U visa, believe it or not. So the U visa is very, very broad. The public policy behind the U visa is to encourage people who are in undocumented, non-legal status to report crimes. And we've seen recently in New York a number of hate crimes being perpetrated on all kinds of folks. But you know, for the interest of this show, there have been a number of Southeast Asians that have been targeted. Right. So it's not enough to be the victim of bad words or somebody writing, let's say, graffiti on your property or something like that. But if you're assaulted, if you're coming out of the subway and someone goes to steal your pocketbook or hits you over the back of the head, you can get this U visa. Just quickly, I did one recently for a kid who was beat up in high school. He was a victim of bullying. This is what's so good about the U visa. He's under 21. He's going to get it. His brothers and sisters are going to get it, and so is his parents. And they had no idea. This happened several years ago. I was giving a lecture in the Caribbean community, and they came up and they asked me, and I said, you have your solution right here, the U visa.
Okay, Carrie, we have a caller here. His name is Azhar from New York. Hello, Azhar.
Hello.
Hello. Hi. Hello?
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
About my immigration. That I am in United States for 10 years on withholding of removal. So is there any possibility to get any kind of help in green card?
Okay, so if I have this correctly, you're in the U.S. for 10 years and you already have a removal order.
Withholding.
You got withholding. You got withholding. Okay. So withholding is kind of like a consolation prize. We're not going to give you asylum, but we're going to give you withholding. And unfortunately, withholding is actually a deportation order that's just not being enforced. You really can't take a next step, especially if you initially entered the U.S. unlawfully. But if you got withholding after entering the U.S. on a visa, then it is possible to adjust your status later on through marriage or through some other kind of petition. Withholding is really, it's a consolation prize, unfortunately. However, if you got withholding and you became a victim of a violent crime, just to tie in the original conversation, you could still do a U visa.
Okay, so I guess he hung up. So I guess he got his answer. So what is this U visa actually? Like, what is the...
Yeah, well, I'll go over the U visa again, and then maybe it might be a good idea to translate it for the Bangla speaking client. So the U visa is a visa for victims of violent crimes.
Victims of violent crimes. So it's a direct...
There's a whole list, some that you'll never see: involuntary servitude, kidnapping, but the one that comes up all the time in New York is assault, which is a lesser included crime of a robbery.
So are eligible to get green card with the U visa?
Correct. Basically, you first get the U visa, which is the right to live and work in the U.S., and then later you can convert that to a green card.
So you basically do the adjustment of status later, or?
Yeah, right. You have to wait 3 years after you get the U visa, and the U visa has a cap of $10,000 per year. So right now, if you were to apply for a U visa from the beginning, it would probably take about 5 years, but you'd have a work authorization after about a year or a year and a half.
Okay, so we have another caller from Pennsylvania, Misbah. Hello, Misbah.
Hello.
Hello. Ji bolun. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. You can ask a question directly.
Okay, বাংলা বলবো না ইংলিশে বলবো?
আচ্ছা বলেন, বাংলায় বলতে পারবেন, কোনো সমস্যা নেই।
ওকে। আমার কি হয়েছে, আমার আব্বু ছিলেন
বলুন।
আমার আব্বু ছিলেন যে ইউএসএ তে আসছিলেন 2005-এ। উনি আসার পর গ্রিন কার্ড হোল্ডার উনি আর বাংলায় চলে গেছিলেন, আর আসেন নাই এই দেশে।
আচ্ছা।
আর এখন আমার আম্মুকে সিটিজেনশিপ হয়েছে, উনি আবার অ্যাপ্লাই করছে ওনার জন্য। তো এইটার জন্য কি কোনো দ্রুত কিছু আছে যে ওনাকে আনার জন্য ইউএসএ তে?
আচ্ছা, আপনার আম্মা সিটিজেন হয়ে আপনার আব্বার জন্য আবার অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করেছে?
জি।
ওকে, সো কোনো দ্রুত কোনো প্রসিজার আছে কিনা সেটা জানতে চাচ্ছেন?
জি।
Okay. Basically, his question is, thank you, Misbah. আমি আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনটা ট্রান্সলেট করছি। His question is like his father came into United States. He was a green card holder while he came in 2005. Then he left the country and he never came back. So now his mother is a citizen and she applied for the father. So is there any faster process or something? So I don't think so there.
No, it's going to go through the normal processing time. If he's out of the country, the first step is the visa petition. That takes approximately 6 to 9 months. Once the visa petition is approved, they forward it to the National Visa Center to start scheduling it for consular processing. You're looking at about a year and a half. Could be 2 years. It all depends on the consulate in Bangladesh.
Let me add one other question with it. Like, is there any complications that because he left the country with a green card and then he never come back? So, you know,
No, he will have no negative impact that he had a green card and then abandoned it. As long as he didn't commit any fraud or it wasn't deported. If he was, then you'll have to see if any waivers are going to be necessary. But if he had a green card, left, decided not to come back and abandoned it, there's no problem with this application.
Okay, Misbah, আপনার প্রশ্নটির উত্তর হচ্ছে যে আপনার মা যে অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করেছে সেটা নর্মাল প্রসেসে, বিকজ উনি সিটিজেন, সো এখানে আর কোনো ফাস্টার কোনো প্রসেস নেই, কারণ সিটিজেনদের জন্য কোনো যেটা নর্মাল প্রসেস আপনার 1 থেকে 1.5 বছরের মধ্যে আপনার ফাদার এখানে আসতে পারবে, তার জন্য অন্য কোনো কমপ্লিকেশনসও নেই, সো আপনারা নিশ্চিত থাকতে পারেন। Okay, we have another caller, Adiha from Michigan. Hello, Adiha.
Yes, hello. I'm Adiha.
Yes.
I have an uncle who came here about 10 years ago on an I-20 student visa. And now that he's done with his learning here, they gave him about a year to find a job. And if he doesn't find a job, how can he legally still stay?
Right. So I understood the
yes,
question.
okay.
Right. So your uncle had.
Thank you, Adina.
Yeah. So when you come here on a student visa and you complete your studies, you get what's called optional practical training, which sounds like he had it. If during that year of optional practical training you don't find an employer willing to petition for you for your H or potentially for a green card, then you will become out of status. As a student, you get 60 days in which you have to leave the country after your F1 student status is expired. Now, luckily from Bangladesh, if you don't have an employer willing to file an H-1B, you may want to start your own business. You have the option to invest. And unlike an investor visa, this investment is under the E2 treaty investor visa. So he can start any business at all he would like as long as he owns at least 50% of the business. And he shows that he uses his own funds, puts them at risk, and he starts the business. Initially, when it's a brand new business, it's a lot easier to get those visas as long as you show you're starting a business, you have a location, you have a lease, you have a business plan, and you put your money at risk. You get a visa for 2 to 4 years, and then you need to renew it. It's renewable indefinitely. There's no end to the E2 visa unless the business closes.
Wow.
And this is special for Bangladesh, really for Southeast Asia. India doesn't get
Right.
the right to do this.
These visas are only available for countries that have a treaty agreement with the United States. And there's only 100 and something countries that might have it. No, not even 100, I think, that have the agreement. But again, for Southeast Asia, yes, Bangladesh is one of few.
And
that's a good
also,
answer.
unlike the normal investment visa that people talk about, the EB-5, this doesn't require an investment of $500,000 or
No.
$1 million.
The investment amount depends on the business that you're going to start. So it could be under 100,000. It could be, you could start it with 50,000.
Could I do it if I was to buy, let's say, a licensed green taxi in New York?
So basically, you're saying like
then
there
you
is no
couldn't
minimum?
do it. You can't. There's no minimum, but immigration is going to look very closely at it. They want to see that you're investing your money, so they need to see that some funds are at risk. So if you're going to start something that has no money down, guaranteed it's probably going to get denied, or requests for evidence are going to be issued and take forever, and they might have to leave anyway.
Okay.
But what you do need to show is that it will ultimately be a business that's going to add to the economy. How is it going to add to the economy? You're going to have to hire somebody,
Right.
ultimately. It doesn't have to start out that way. But if it's a one-man show like a taxi, that would be very hard to prove that, you're going to support multiple people. Maybe you can support 3 people, and maybe there is an issue there. I said no right away, but you'd have to be able to show that's a huge investment. You might as well go for the
What about a small
EB-5.
candy store with newspapers
Okay.
or something like that, which a lot of Bangladeshi people do?
Yeah, you definitely can. You can buy an existing business, but if you buy an existing business, the business had to have been owned by a Bangladeshi, or
Right.
you would have to convert it to
Absolutely.
a
And it's a
Bangladeshi
great
owner.
opportunity also. So, দর্শক, আপনারা যারা Bretz Coven LLP তে আপনারা অ্যাপয়েন্টমেন্ট করতে চান, আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে চান, আপনারা তাদের ইনফরমেশন স্ক্রিনে দেখতে পাচ্ছেন। আপনারা প্লিজ তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন আপনাদের যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশনের সমস্যা নিয়ে, যে কোনো ধরনের যত কমপ্লিকেটেড কেসই হোক না কেন, আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন। তাদের নাম্বার আপনাদের স্ক্রিনে এবং তাদের ইনফরমেশন আপনাদের স্ক্রিনেই শো করছে। সো আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন। The next caller. Okay, we have a caller from Pennsylvania, Fiaz. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, Fiaz, how are you?
Fine. আমি রিয়াজ বলছিলাম।
জি বলেন, আপনি বাংলায় বলতে পারেন অথবা আপনি
হ্যাঁ
আচ্ছা
বাংলায় বল।
আচ্ছা বলেন।
আমি পেনসিলভেনিয়া থেকে।
জি বলেন।
আমি একজন ইমিগ্রেন্ট ভিসা হোল্ডার।
বলুন।
আমি একজন ইমিগ্রেন্ট ভিসা হোল্ডার, তো আমার গ্রিন কার্ড আছে। তো আমি রিসেন্টলি বাংলাদেশ যেতে চাচ্ছি আর কি।
আচ্ছা।
তো বাংলাদেশ কি আমি মানে কতদিনে এক্স্যাক্টলি থাকতে পারবো আর কি এই গ্রিন কার্ড নিয়ে আর কি এটা।
আচ্ছা, so thank you. His question is, he is a green card holder. He wants to travel to Bangladesh, and how long he can stay.
This is a good question, and it kind of tied in with the question that someone asked earlier about the person who kind of gave up their green card. And this question comes up all the time. What are the residency requirements when you have a green card? And the rule is basically that you have to make the U.S. your primary home. You can go outside of the U.S. and you go outside the U.S. for extended periods, but you need to make the U.S. your primary home.
Right.
If you stay out of the U.S. for more than a year, there is a presumption that you have abandoned your green card, but one in which you can overcome. So the immigration courts always look at what the person's intention was when they left the U.S. So if the person bought a one-way ticket to Dhaka or went somewhere in Bangladesh, sold all their property in New York, emptied their bank accounts, and then 3 years later bought a round-trip ticket from Bangladesh to New York back to Bangladesh and tried to use that green card, it sounds like they probably abandoned their status.
Right.
On the other hand, if you bought a 2-month or a 3-month trip to Bangladesh, and while you were there, unfortunately, your mother got sick, and you had to take care of her, and then she passed away, and you had to deal with the estate, and you were out of the country for 2 years, but you didn't plan upon that, and you come back, you're probably going to be okay. What you can't do, and a lot of people do this, they live in Bangladesh, they say, oh, my year is almost up. I got to make a 2-week trip to New York, and then they go back home. You're only going to be able to do that a couple of years in a row before you lose your green card. So to answer the gentleman's question, I personally would never recommend someone stay out for more than 6 months. It's going to be a red flag, and always buy a round-trip ticket from New York back to New York, and maintain your residency. Pay your Con Ed bill, get mail here, keep your bank account, and this way you're showing this is still your primary home.
So don't froze anything here.
Yeah. Would you add?
Well, yeah, if you do need to stay out for an extended period of time, but it's only a one-time, maybe you need to stay out for a year or 2, you can get what's called a reentry permit. And it will allow you to stay out for up to 2 years without the risk of abandoning your green card. You're pretty much telling immigration, I'm going to be out for a long time, but I'm not abandoning my status. Give me advance permission.
Right.
And you could renew that for another 2 years.
Yeah, but it's very hard to go beyond that.
Right.
You'd have to have a good reason.
So if you had a reason to go back home, you just inherited the family's farm, you wanted to study, whatever the reason was, and you knew you were going to be out for more than a year, applying for this reentry permit is the way to go. You don't lose your green card, you maintain it, and you can stay out for that period of time.
That's a good thing.
One other thing, though. If he got his green card by asylum, he cannot go back to Bangladesh.
Oh,
Just to put it out there.
Okay, that's a good addition. Yeah. Okay, so Darshok, sorry, Riyaj, আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনের অ্যান্সারটি হচ্ছে আপনি যে কোয়েশ্চেনটি করলেন যে আপনি কতদিন বাংলাদেশে যেয়ে থাকতে পারবেন বা আপনি বাংলাদেশে যেতে পারবেন কিনা, আপনি যদি গ্রিন কার্ডটা পলিটিক্যাল অ্যাসাইলামের থ্রু পেয়ে থাকেন তাহলে আপনি বাংলাদেশে যাওয়ার জন্য আপনি এলিজিবল না, আপনি বাংলাদেশে যেতে পারবেন না। কিন্তু আপনি যদি নর্মালি গ্রিন কার্ডটা পেয়ে থাকেন তাহলে আপনি যেটা ক্যারি সাজেশন দিল যে আপনি 6 মাসের বেশি না থাকাটাই সবচেয়ে বেটার, বাট আপনি যদি তার বেশি সময় থাকতে চান তাহলে আপনি পারমিশন নিয়ে যেতে পারেন, 2 বছরের জন্য আপনি পারমিশন নিতে পারেন, এটাকে বলে রিএন্ট্রি পারমিট। ঠিক আছে? ওকে, উই হ্যাভ অ্যানাদার কলার, সুমি ফ্রম জর্জিয়া। সুমি, হ্যালো।
হ্যাঁ, আমি শুনতে পাচ্ছি।
হ্যাঁ, বলুন।
আসলে আমার কোশ্চেন ছিল, আমি সিটিজেন এখন, তো আমি আমার আম্মুর জন্য অ্যাপ্লাই করেছি। তো আমার একটা ছোট ভাই আছে, তার 13 বছর। এখন সে কি আমার আম্মুর সাথে আসতে পারবে?
ওকে, থ্যাংক ইউ সুমি। আর কিছু অ্যাড করতে চান নাকি এটাই আপনার কোশ্চেন?
না, এটাই।
Okay, thank you, Shumi. Okay, her question is like she applied for her mother. She's a citizen, and she applied for her mother. And the mother, she have another brother who is 13-year-old. So her question is, the brother can come with her mom.
No, the answer to that is no. When the petition is an immediate relative petition, and that would be a U.S. citizen adult child petitioning for his parent, or a U.S. citizen spouse, there are no derivative beneficiaries. Okay. It doesn't happen. But on all the other categories, there are derivative beneficiaries. So, for example, if the mother was being petitioned for by her new husband, who was a resident, the children would be included. If the mother was being petitioned for by her brother, a fourth preference petition, which now takes, I think, about 12 years. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
If the child was under 21, the child would follow to join. But on that kind of case, the child doesn't come. So what we always recommend First of all, you can file multiple petitions. So if the the adult child is petitioning for the mother, he also can petition
For the brother.
for the brother, get that going, and when the mother gets her green card, she can file for the child as well. So you have both of those petitions going. Because even though the brother and sister petition, the fourth preference, now takes a long time, if the comprehensive immigration reform goes through that the Senate passed, that will be reduced from 12 years to 4 years. And only those who already filed will be included. So in immigration, you file every petition you can file whenever you can file it, even though one might look faster than the other.
That's a good thing. Okay, Shumi, আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনের অ্যানসারটা হচ্ছে যে আপনার মার সাথে যেহেতু আপনি অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করেছেন আপনার মার সাথে, সো এটা আপনার ভাই আসতে পারবে না তার সাথে। যদি আপনার মা বা আপনার বাবা অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করতো আপনার মায়ের জন্য, তাহলে তার যে যতগুলো ছেলে মেয়ে ছিল তারা আসতে পারবে। সো ক্যারি যেটা আপনাকে অ্যানাদার সাজেশন দিল সেটা হচ্ছে যে আপনি আপনার ভাইয়ের জন্য অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করতে পারবেন, এবং আপনার মা যখন এখানে আসবে তখন সে যখন গ্রিন কার্ড পাবে তখন সে তার জন্য অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করতে পারবে। সো আপনার দুটোই অ্যাপ্লিকেশন আপনার সাথে সাথে থাকতে পারবে, যেটা আগে হবে সেটাতেই সে আসতে পারবে। সো যেহেতু সে এখন 13 বছর বয়স, সো আপনারা দুজনই তার জন্য অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করতে পারবেন। ওকে, সো উই হ্যাভ অ্যানাদার কলার, Masood from Washington, D.C. Hello, Masood.
Hi.
Hi.
I do have a question that I did apply for my sister. It's about 3 years now. And just most recently, I received a letter from immigration that they asked some information and then to establish some relationship with my sister. So one point they asked they needed DNA test, and unfortunately I don't have my parents alive. They both passed away. What is the process to test the DNA? Like, she's in Bangladesh, I'm here. I know that there are authorized places that she has to go and get it done, and so I have to do it here. So what is the processing time after that second letter?
Yeah, so this
and how long it takes to get the approval?
Okay, thank you, Masood. They already got your question, so they will answer.
Yeah, this is an excellent question, and the DNA testing comes up in all kinds of circumstances. I can just tell you personally, I petitioned for my daughter. I didn't petition for her. She was born in the Dominican Republic, and I wanted her to be a citizen at birth, and I had to do a DNA. So I have a lot of first-hand experience besides being a lawyer. They require that the DNA be done in the two separate countries to avoid any fraud. I think it's your brother or your sister, she will be required to go to a doctor who's authorized by the Public Health Service in Bangladesh, and the consulate will give her that list. They take a swab of the saliva from inside the mouth. You're going to go to a doctor from the Public Health Service here, wherever you live in the U.S., and they'll give you that list. And then those results will be sent to a third place where they make the determination. The time frame, and it's, by the way, it's not cheap. I think it's close to $1,000 or better to do that these days. It depends upon the lab, whether it's going to be a couple of weeks or several weeks. But everything with immigration is going to take a lot longer than you like. When the results come, they're going to come back to the consulate in a sealed pouch, and then the consulate will make that determination and let you know. My experience with DNA testing, if you do it right away, you're probably still looking at a 6 to a 12-month period before you get a decision, although it could be faster. And I would recommend, if you do the testing and you know the consulate has received it and the consulates are receptive to emails, especially from lawyers, then reach out to your favorite congressman or senator, because the Department of State is influenced by politicians. And that's really the way to go.
But a sibling petition is still going to take 10 to 12 years, and you're only 4 years into it. So there's no rush for the decisions, really, but you can keep an eye on it. And like Kerry said, you can contact your congressman.
Yeah, but as they ask for the DNA, maybe they have to do it now, right?
Oh, they have to do it.
They
certain
need to do it
time?
now. No,
Yeah.
they should do. They'll be told
There
the
is a
time.
time-
They'll be told the
Time
time frame,
period,
probably
okay.
89 days or something like that. But what he
Exactly.
got is what we commonly call an RFB, a request for evidence.
Evidence,
And they
right.
have to comply. And unfortunately, they're going to do that now.
Yeah.
But as Eileen said, a brother and sister petition is running about 12 years.
12 years.
But they need to address that now.
Okay, Carrie, we have another caller, Abhijit from New York. Hello, Abhijit, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. You have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Basically, I'm a F1 student visa. I have a student visa, and I'm here since last year. And now I'm working in a place in Manhattan, and my boss wants to apply for me, like he wants to sponsor me in a business visa or something. Like I can go to Bangladesh and come back, like in a business visa or something like that. So what he can do basically, he never did this before. So he wanted to sponsor me in a way that I can get papers and work permission, everything here.
So basically you want an idea for what kind of cases that are available for you, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, that would be a great question. Thank you, Abhijit. Thanks for calling.
Okay, so if you're going to have an employer petition for you, it really depends on what the position is. So if the position is just for an experienced worker without a master's degree or the experience equivalent to a master's degree, you're looking at it's going to be about a 3-year wait from the time the employer starts filing the labor certification until it's going to be approvable and then consular processing back to the U.S. If the applicant has a master's degree or enough experience to equate to a master's degree and the position requires such, well then it's an immediate visa, and immediate in immigration terms is the processing time, which is still going to take a year.
Okay.
So what's required is the employer will have to do a recruitment here in the United States for that position to see if there's anybody in the U.S. that is available and willing to work in that job. If they meet the criteria, then it will fail at that stage and the employer has to figure out a different route.
Okay.
What about a non-immigrant visa like an H?
Yes, the employer, as long as it's a bachelor's degree or greater, the employer can file an H. The H visas come out in April 2015 for jobs that start October 1st, 2015.
October 1st, 2015. Okay.
So it's a year away.
He can get any like when you apply for a case, does he get something to like stay or get the work permit or anything?
So I kind of missed what status he was in, but assuming he's a student,
F1, I guess.
as long as he's in valid student status, he could stay here. And then if he graduates, he'll get a year of optional practical training. And while that's happening, he can have these petitions filed on his behalf.
Right.
He cannot go out of status. If he goes out of status, he won't be able to accept the visa here.
Okay, so
very
even
important.
if his employer apply for him, so he's not going to be eligible if he go
Even
out
if an employer applies for you, it takes time. The processing is recruitment first, and then you have to file with the Department of Labor. The Department of Labor takes approximately 6 to 9 months. During that time, you have to maintain valid status. If you don't maintain valid status, then you're going to need to leave the United States. You have no right to get work authorization until the application is being filed for your green card before CIS.
Oh, okay. So I think that's the option for him right now.
Yeah, so, you know, he's more than welcome to call or come in and see us, and we could assess what the job position is, how long it would take.
That will be the great addition for him.
Yeah.
They can talk to you. Okay, we have another caller from Buffalo, Sayeda. Hello, Sayeda, how are you?
Yes. আমি যে জানতে চাইছি আমি সিটিজেনশিপ যে আমার বাইরের জন্য অ্যাপ্লাই করেছি আর কি 2006 এ
জি
যে আর কত বছর লাগবে আর কি সময় এটার জন্য আর কি আমি ফোন
2006 এ করেছেন আপনি
জি 2006 এ
আচ্ছা আর কোনো কোশ্চেন আছে আপনার
না এটাই জন্য জানতে চাই
আচ্ছা থ্যাংক ইউ সৈয়দা থ্যাঙ্কস ফর কলিং Carrie, her question is like a general question. She applied for her brothers and sister on 2006. So how long it will take?
Yeah, 2006. It's running like 12 years right now. So my math is not that good.
So
but
you're 8 years
like,
into it, and you need another 4 years.
Another 4.
Approximately.
Sayeda, আপনি যেহেতু 2006-এ করেছেন, এখন যে প্রায়োরিটি চলছে সেই হিসাব করলে আপনার কেসটা হয়তো আরও 3 থেকে 4 বছর লাগতে পারে, যদি ইমিগ্রেশনের কোনো চেঞ্জেস না হয়, যদি তারা তাড়াতাড়ি তাদের দিক থেকে তাড়াতাড়ি হয় তাহলে হয়তো তাড়াতাড়ি হবে, আদারওয়াইজ এটা এখনকার সময় হিসাবে আরও 4 বছর লাগবে আপনার কেসটা। সো থ্যাংক ইউ। All right, so we go back to the U visa we were talking, right?
And you know I love the U visa. I really
Right,
do.
as you said, and I would love to know more about it because it seems kind of exciting, and there are many people actually would get benefit from that.
It is. And so let me just go through like the typical case. Somebody comes to the office, they have a deportation order, they don't know what to do, and I ask them, have you ever been a victim of a crime? And they say, yeah, 3 years ago when I was taking the subway home, I was getting out near Ozone Park, and when I got off the train, I got beat up, I got assaulted, they hit me, they stole my wallet, I went to the hospital, the police came, they asked me to look at pictures, and it was a terrible experience. I say, okay, the first step is getting a copy of the police complaint. When we get the complaint, I want to make sure that the person is a victim of a crime that would qualify, which would be an assault or a robbery. Second step, we have to ask for a certification from the New York City Police Department or any police department in this country, no matter where it happened, or if there was an arrest made, the district attorney. Any law enforcement can certify. And what they do here in New York, and they've gone through some changes now that Bratton is the commissioner, it was very quick under Kelly. It slowed down a little bit, but immigration lawyer advocacy groups like American Immigration Lawyers Association has been putting some pressure on them, and hopefully they're going to change their policy a little bit. But they'll check their records to make sure that they believe this person, that it was whatever the situation is, and they certify it.
Right.
With that certification, we can then make the application to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And if the person has a deportation order, if the person has a criminal history, if the person has a fraud, we need to come clean with all that and ask for a waiver. But this waiver that you apply for with the U visa is a simple waiver. It waives everything, but it doesn't require a qualifying family member. You don't need a parent, spouse, or a child who is a citizen or resident. And it doesn't require that you show hardship. It's a very low standard to be granted. So what we want to do is make sure we get everything out. Did you ever use any other names? Did you have any other files, anything else? We do that, and we make the application to U.S. CIS. When they approve it, they will give the person a work authorization. But because there's only 10,000 a year, and the numbers begin on October 1st every year, you have to wait until your number comes up before your 3 years begins before you can apply for a green card. So that's kind of the process. But for people who have nothing else, and sometimes they don't realize it. They don't, it happened to them 15 years ago or 20 years ago. This is a home run because it's you, your spouse, your children. If you're a child, it's your parents. It includes everybody. And as I said, sometimes you have people that have 2 or 3 versions of their name with 2 or 3 different files with immigration, and this U visa can make all of that come clean and resolve it, and in the end wind up with a green card.
Okay. দর্শক, আমাদের অ্যাটর্নিদের সাথে আপনারা যোগাযোগ করুন। দর্শক, আপনারা অ্যাটর্নির সাথে কথা বলতে চাইলে যোগাযোগ করুন। আপনাদের স্ক্রিনে তাদের ইনফরমেশন দেওয়া আছে, আপনারা যে কোনো ইমিগ্রেশনের ব্যাপারে। আর আপনারা জানতে পারলেন যে ইউ ভিসা, যেটা যে কোনো ধরনের কেসের জন্য, যে কোনো ক্রিমিনাল ভিকটিমস যারা ডোমেস্টিক ভায়োলেন্স যারা, আমরা যেরকম জানি যে আমাদের কমিউনিটিতে অনেক হয় এটা, যারা ভিকটিমস হয় অনেক ক্রাইমের, তো আপনারা ইউ ভিসার জন্য যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন, যেটা আপনাদেরকে অনেক বেনিফিট দিতে পারে হয়তো বা আপনাদের কেসের ক্ষেত্রে। সো আপনারা যোগাযোগ করতে, আপনারা স্ক্রিনে যে নাম্বার বা যে ইনফরমেশন দেওয়া আছে আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন। ব্রেটস কোভেন, তারা এই ব্যাপারে এক্সপার্ট। সো আমাদের একটা কলার আছে, আমরা কলটা নিয়ে আসছি। Marin from Pennsylvania. Hello Marin, how are you?
I'm fine. আমি জানতে চাচ্ছি যে আমি গ্রিন কার্ড হোল্ডার, আর আমি আমার হাজবেন্ডের জন্য 2012 সালে অ্যাপ্লাই করেছিলাম।
2012-তে
তো
ওকে
অ্যাপ্লাই করার পর আমি একটা সময় মানে আমার যে লেটারগুলো আসছিল ওগুলো আমি মিসিং করে ফেলি। তারপর আমি আমার দেশে চলে যাই। এবছর অক্টোবর মাসে মানে আমার কেসটা ওরা ডিনাই করে ফেলে। তো তারপর আমি ওদের সাথে কন্ট্যাক্ট করি, মানে নানা ধরনের মেসেজ পাঠাই। তো ওরা আমাকে মানে রিপ্লাই করে বলছে যে 30 ডেজের ভিতরে ওরা একটা পাঠাবে, একটা লেটার পাঠাবে আমার ঘরের অ্যাড্রেসে। তো মানে হ্যাঁ, এটা জানতে চাইছে মানে এটা ডিনাই করে ফেললে মানে এটা কতদিন লাগবে?
আচ্ছা,
নতুন করে করতে হবে নাকি এটা কন্টিনিউ থাকবে?
আচ্ছা, আপনাকে একটা কোয়েশ্চেন জিজ্ঞেস করি, আপনি যখন দেশে গিয়েছিলেন আপনি কবে দেশে গিয়েছিলেন এবং কতদিনের জন্য?
হ্যাঁ, আমি প্রায় 10 মাস মানে দেশে গিয়েছি, মানে 10 মাস থাকা পড়েছে আমার দেশে।
আচ্ছা, 10 মাস আপনি দেশে গিয়েছিলেন, আপনি কি পারমিশন নিয়েছিলেন নাকি?
মানে 2 বছরের মানে ওর জন্য একটা থাকা।
আচ্ছা, আপনি 2012-এ 2012-তে আপনি অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করেছেন এবং তারপরে ওরা যে ডকুমেন্টস, ওরা কোনো পেপার চেয়েছিল আপনার কাছে নাকি জাস্ট আপনাকে?
না, আমি রিসিভ লেটার পেয়েছি, বাট যে আর অন্য যে পেপারগুলো ওগুলো মিসিং করে ফেলি, মিসিং হয়ে গেছে।
মিসিং হয়ে গেছে, আপনি কোনো লেটার পাননি?
না, আমি কোনো লেটার পাইনি।
নাকি পে আপনি মিসিং করেছেন? দুটোর কোনটা?
বুঝিনি।
আপনি এখানে যে আপনার লেটারগুলো আপনাকে লেটার পাঠিয়েছে সেগুলো আপনি হারিয়ে ফেলেছেন নাকি আপনি পাননি লেটার?
না, ওরা মনে হয় পাঠাইছে, মানে আমি পাইনি।
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, ওকে মেরিন, আমি আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনটা ট্রান্সলেট করছি আর আপনি আমাদের সাথে থাকুন। থ্যাংক ইউ আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনের জন্য। ওকে Eileen, I'm going to ask you this question. This is a question she asked, like she applied for her husband on 2012. She's a green card holder, and I guess she went, after that she went to Bangladesh for 10 months. She stayed there for 10 months and she missed, she just received the receiving letter. Later on, whatever the letter the immigration sent it, she missed it or misfiled it or she didn't receive it. But she said that she didn't receive it. Now her case is denied. She got a denial letter. So when she asked them, they said they will send a letter, detailed letter. So what will be the process for her? It will be denied or she can do anything?
We would need to take a look at the denial because there are chances when you can respond to the denial. Sometimes we can get the case reopened and it would be back on track. Without knowing why it was denied, I can't really answer her question.
Right.
The best thing to do, we have to make sure that we get the denial, which has the reason, and make sure we get it timely so we have time to respond.
Time to respond. Okay.
Yeah,
So
essentially, you can do
right to
a
appeal.
motion to reopen or reconsider within, there's different rules, but within 30 to 90 days
30 to 90 days,
from the time the denial is made. So if this is old, I mean, we can investigate and get a copy of the file, but if she had the denial in her hand and we're in the time frame, we might have an option. But one of the prudent things to do, sadly, is to refile and get back on track.
Right.
And so if she did this in 2012, she's got to also be not too far away from being eligible to naturalize as well.
Right. Marin, আপনার যে কেসটি, আপনার যে ডিনায়াল লেটারটা এসছে সেটা অ্যাটর্নি না দেখে আসলে বলতে পারবে না যে কি কারণে এটা ডিনাই করা হয়েছে। তো আপনি ওনাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন, নাম্বারটি আমাদের স্ক্রিনে আছে এবং হয়তো আপনার কেসটি রিওপেন করা যেতে পারে, কিন্তু এটা ডিপেন্ড করবে আপনার কেসটা কি স্ট্যাটাস আছে, যেটা আপনার যে আপনাকে যে ডিনায়াল লেটারটা দিয়েছে তার উপরে ভিত্তি করে। ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ। ওকে,
can I just say something?
Sure.
I've noticed that the callers are calling from all over
Yes.
the country, and we do handle cases outside of New York, outside of New Jersey. We handle cases throughout the country. So we do telephonic consultations, we do Skype consultations, but we also handle cases in all different jurisdictions. So if people are interested, they didn't get their questions answered today, they could still call up and make an appointment by telephone.
Oh wow, that's a good addition of audience. ক্যারি আইলিন যেটা অ্যাড করলো তার সাথে যে আপনারা অল ওভার দ্য কান্ট্রি আপনারা যেখানেই থাকুন না কেন ইউনাইটেড স্টেটের আপনারা যে কোনো স্টেট থেকে তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন, তাদের নাম্বারে কল দিতে পারেন, ইভেন স্কাইপিতে তাদের সাথে আপনারা কনসাল্ট করতে পারেন। সো আপনারা যত শীঘ্রই সম্ভব আপনারা তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন, আমার তাদের নাম্বার দেওয়া আছে স্ক্রিনে, সো আপনারা যোগাযোগ করুন তাদের সাথে।
And they can ask for, by the way, although we speak 15 languages, we do speak Bangla. And right now, Shaheen is really the point person. So when they call, and if they want to be speaking in Bangla, they should ask for Shaheen, and she will get all the information and arrange for the consultation.
দর্শক তাদের সব ভাষার তারা কথা বলে এবং তাদের কাছে আপনাদের ভাষায় আমাদের ভাষায় কথা বলার জন্য বাংলাতে কথা বলার জন্য তাদের লোক আছে। সো আপনারা যে কোনো ভাষায় কথা বলতে পারেন, আপনারা বাংলায় তাদেরকে কোয়েশ্চেন দিতে পারেন, তারা আপনাদেরকে হেল্প করবে যে কোনো ব্যাপারে। থ্যাংক ইউ। আর কলার ইমার। হ্যালো ইমার।
যে আমার যে কোয়েশ্চেনটা হচ্ছে আমার বাবার সম্পর্কে উনি এখানে আছে প্রায় 6 বছর হচ্ছে। লাস্ট ইয়ার ওনার জন্য সিটিজেনশিপ অ্যাপ্লাই করেছিলাম। উনি আসলে সত্যিকারে অসুস্থ, যেরকম ওনার একটা স্ট্রোক হয়েছিল 2 বার, তারপর উনি ওনার ভয়েসটা লস্ট করে ফেলছে, উনি কোনো অবস্থায় কোনো কথা বলতে পারে না, তাছাড়া ওনার প্যারালাইজ আছে। তো যে জিনিসটা হচ্ছে যে আমরা সিটিজেনশিপ অ্যাপ্লাই করছিলাম, ডাক্তারের কাছ থেকে 646 টা ফর্ম আছে, ওটা ফিল আপ করে দিচ্ছিল ডাক্তার, তো সেটা নিয়ে 2 বার উঠছি। কিন্তু প্রবলেমটা হচ্ছে যে ওরা বিশ্বাস করতে চাইতেছে না যে ওই ফর্মটা, তারা বলতেছে যে ডাক্তারের ফর্মটা ফিল আপ করা হচ্ছে না, সেজন্য ওনাকে সিটিজেনশিপটা ওরা দিচ্ছে না। তো সে বিষয়ে কি কিছু ধরনের কোনো হেল্প পাওয়া যাবে ওনাদের কাছ থেকে?
আপনার বাবা কতদিন আগে এসেছে বললেন?
6 বছর, 6 ইয়ার্স।
6 বছর এখানে আছে। সো উনি গ্রিন কার্ড হোল্ডার 6 বছর?
জি।
আচ্ছা, ওকে। সো আর কোনো কোয়েশ্চেন আছে আপনার?
আপনি বুঝতে যে আমি কোয়েশ্চেনটা যে উনি কথা বলতে পারেন না, একদম উনি প্যারালাইজ।
আচ্ছা, আমি বুঝতে পেরেছি আপনার কোয়েশ্চেনটা। থ্যাংক ইউ। Thank you, Apnake. Okay, his question is like his father is a green card holder for 6 years and to apply for her citizenship based on medical condition. He cannot speak. He's almost paralyzed. But I guess they went twice, which the citizenship wasn't approved because the medical form they have something in there.
Yeah. Well. You can ask for a medical waiver, and some jurisdictions are tougher than others on how they look at that. They're very tough on medical waivers in the New York district. Eileen does a lot of these throughout the U.S., particularly here in New York, and perhaps you want to, I don't know where, my guess is that the gentleman's father had this happen here in New York, but it can happen anywhere. And how would you address that, Eileen?
Well, a lot of times what CIS is looking for is they want to see that there's a medical reason that qualifies for why they're unable to take the exam. So a medical doctor has to fill out the form, which is the 648. And that form has to indicate clearly what the diagnosis is and why that impacts the ability to recollect facts and to be able to answer the questions for the civics exam, the history and civics. Right. I've seen a lot of them where they're deficient from the doctor. So it's really, at this point, it's more of a doctor issue. Are they going to give the right diagnosis? Is it going to qualify for the examiner at CIS? If the examiner doesn't agree with what the doctor has written or it's deficient, they're definitely going to get a denial. And like you said, it already happened twice. So you really want to show that to somebody who's qualified and can see if the doctor completed it properly.
And I would just add 2 things on that. The first is sometimes people are illiterate. They can't read or write. You're not going to get a medical waiver to get over on that. If you can't read and write because you weren't educated and now you have Alzheimer's, you're probably not going to be able to, maybe you'll be able to survive that. But if you're basically illiterate and you're going to a doctor who's going to fluff something up, that's what they look at a lot. But let's say you do, and I see this a lot in New York. It really bothers me how often they deny medical waivers in New York. You can appeal. And the appeal process, the first step, there's an appeal that goes to immigration, which is just really a waste of time, in my opinion, but you have to do that. And then the second appeal, you can go into federal court. You can ask a federal judge to tell immigration to naturalize you, that this waiver is good. And I like that process. So, you know, if people have denials for naturalization that they don't like,
okay, Carrie, sorry.
Let's take a look at it.
Yeah, we wanted to know more about it, but we really don't have time today. We have to end the show. দর্শক আপনার প্রশ্নের উত্তরটি আপনাকে বলছি আপনার বাবার যে প্রবলেমটি মেডিকেল গ্রাউন্ডে তো মেডিকেল ফর্মটি আপনাকে ঠিকমতো ফিল আপ করতে হবে আর আপনি যে কোনো লয়ারের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন ক্যারি অ্যান্ড আইলিনের সাথে যোগাযোগ করতে পারেন তাদের নাম্বারটি আছে আপনি তাদেরকে কল করে আপনারা বাংলায় কথা বলতে পারবেন তাদের বাংলায় সহযোগিতা করার জন্য লোক আছেন সো আপনি তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন ডিটেলস তারা কিভাবে আপনার এটা ফর্মটা ফিল আপ করতে হবে বা কিভাবে আপনার প্রসেসটা আগাতে হবে তারা আপনাকে জানাবে থ্যাংক ইউ অ্যান্ড দর্শক আপনাদের উদ্দেশ্যে আমরা আজকে অনেকেরই কল অ্যাটেন্ড করতে পারিনি সেজন্য আন্তরিকভাবে দুঃখিত বাট আমরা প্রতি সপ্তাহে আসছি এই সময় আপনারা আপনাদের প্রশ্ন নিয়ে রেডি থাকুন আমরা আবার আপনাদের সামনে আসব সো আমরা আজকে অনুষ্ঠান এখানেই শেষ করছি thank you Eileen for being with us and thank you Carrie
thank you for having us
We look forward to coming back.
Thank you we are too So, দর্শক আপনারা ইমিগ্রেশন সংক্রান্ত যে কোনো বিষয়ে তাদেরকে প্রশ্ন করতে পারেন আপনাদের ইনফরমেশনটা দেওয়াই আছে স্ক্রিনে আপনারা ওই নাম্বারে ফোন করুন তাদের সাথে যোগাযোগ করুন তো আজ এই পর্যন্তই আবার দেখা হবে ভালো থাকুন সুস্থ থাকুন খোদা হাফেজ